Oh, good evening, friends. We're going to go ahead and turn off the creepy music because we're here. We are here. We are ready to get going. We may have a long night ahead of us if any of this cast of characters that spoke today had anything interesting to say. If this is your first time here, thanks for tuning in to the Gabriel Speaks podcast. Please like, subscribe, do all the things. We really appreciate it. It really helps the algorithm. And the reason the show is titled Break Time Part 2 is because I'm about to hit that summer break, y'all. About to be gone for a while. In fact, we are packing and even moving residents. So some exciting times coming for us. But why we're here tonight is because today there was the UAP Disclosure Forum. Wait, hold on. Yes, the UAP Disclosure Forum, which was apparently brought to us live by News Nation exclusive earlier today. Now we're watching it on the Hill YouTube channel, but it immediately starts like in the middle of Christopher Mellon speaking. So we don't know what he was saying. And for me, grab your popcorn, y'all, because are we going to hear the same bullshit we've been hearing for years and years? Are any of these people going to say anything new? When Hal Puthoff is sitting in the middle of it, fucking forget about it, right? Forget about it. Oh, goodness. Okay, let me get this added here. And you don't want to see my beautiful mug. Here we go. So this is, again, Christopher Mellon. Now, this is where it just starts. It just starts here. It's like 7-hour video or something. Look at that, 7 hours, 20 minutes. Now, obviously, I'm not doing a 7-hour and 20-minute stream. So here we go.
The UAP issue has been transformed. Congress learned that our military was encountering what they were encountering. They listened. Lawmakers agreed that America needed an office to collect and analyze UAP reporting. A handful of Senate staffers, including Kirk McConnell and John Estridge, played quiet but crucial roles behind the scene, helping visionary members of Congress, including Senators Marco Rubio.
Okay, but like right off the bat, this is bullshit. Because if you paid any attention to the previous UFO files that were dropped, the tranches of the files, there was 3 tranches. And in each tranche, there was a system, a mechanism for reporting strange shit in the sky that pilots would see. But what about the stigma? But they still reported it. That's why we have stacks and stacks of reports. So I guess if you want to take credit for reinventing the wheel, sure. But there's already a mechanism in place for reporting this stuff. We just have to start calling spades a spade, guys. And gals, or whatever you identify as. We just have to start calling a spade and at least identify that card as a spade. Because this is like a gimmick.
Rubio, Kirsten Gillibrand, Mike Rounds, and Chuck Schumer achieved these and other important legislative accomplishments. Their impact has been transformational. As a result, scientists are studying UAP, senior military officers are discussing it, Congress is holding hearings, and the President of the United States has now ordered the unprecedented release of UAP data, a process that has already disclosed numerous UAP documents and videos.
And disclosed that there was a process for reporting the thing you said there wasn't a process for reporting, but sure.
And today, experts that rarely occupy the same room Physicists, historians, economists, intelligence professionals, educators, journalists, and policymakers are gathered here in this room to discuss a subject that was, until very recently, untouchable. So we've made astonishing progress in recent years, but we believe decisive UAP data remains hidden behind a wall of classification at the Air Force, CIA, DOE, and elsewhere. The Disclosure Foundation is vigorously seeking further breakthroughs in transparency.
They're hiding the things, guys. They're hiding the things from you and me. They're hiding the things. The non-human biologics that pilot the green Pegasus craft. You know about Pegasus craft? Oh, yeah. They're real. They're hiding the things. They're always hiding the things, you know? Like, since this was a thing, they've been hiding the things.
Breakthroughs that we hope can resolve vital unanswered questions, especially concerning evidence of a non-human intelligence. Is Pentagon video and radar evidence limited to extreme performance attributes, or does the government also possess recovered off-world technology? Indeed,
Or
several reputable witnesses who made and radar evidence limited to extreme performance attributes, or does the government also possess recovered off-world technology? Indeed, I referred several reputable witnesses who made such claims regarding recovered materials to the government office charged with investigating UAP. I also released the text of a conversation I had with a senior U.S. official.
Like, what was crazy about the episode last night was watching people like argue that it's already been proven that we reverse engineer off-world craft. No, it's been proven that we reverse engineer unknown aerial vehicles, but that could be a Chinese drone. That could be one of these Iranian jellyfish drones. We don't fucking know. Maybe it is off-world craft. But we don't know that. We know there is a reverse engineering program. We know they look for advanced craft to reverse engineer. We do not know where the craft come from. That is classified.
Describing what he claimed to have learned about a UAP recovery program. Other whistleblowers have gone to the intelligence community's Inspector General or Congress. However, denials regarding proof of non-human intelligence continue. We know UAP satellite data exists because former Representative Ratcliffe, as chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, has acknowledged this, although none of that data has been released. There has been no data released regarding UAP in space, notwithstanding rigorous UAP space surveillance or rigorous US space surveillance. Similarly, we have not seen any UAP data revealed by our most powerful and advanced aerospace radar network, nor has data of submerged UAP been released. Yet despite these huge gaps in data, the volume and credibility of UAP continues to grow. Hundreds of new military sightings are occurring every year.
Okay, but why are there big, huge gaps in data? Can somebody explain to me how that's a fact? That we know there's big gaps in data? He's like, there's huge gaps in data. We don't have this data, but we know people are reporting it. Well, how do you know that if you don't have the data?
Being forwarded to the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office and other intelligence organizations, such as the National Air and Space Intelligence Center, for analysis. Yet that analysis is usually omitted from UAP files that are released. Regrettably, without more precise data involving things like distances and acceleration, it is hard to draw many firm conclusions from UAP for performance characteristics, which all too conveniently makes it impossible to demonstrate that these cases involve capabilities that surpass anything made by man. We're eager to assist government officials seeking to identify and close vital information gaps. Our sense of urgency stems from what we already know. For example, in December 2023, UAP violated the—
Like, this is what's a trip, right? Like what we're seeing Christopher Mellon do. If the accusations are true, and he is part of the UFO legacy program, this is basically like, some of you might be too young for this, but if you watch the X-Files, this is like the smoking guy going to a UFO conference and complaining about how there's not enough data on. It's so fucking weird. Like, what are you talking about? This guy, if there are secrets to be known, he knows some of them and is withholding them. See, I think there's this whole market of people that know a huge, huge chunk of these are drones or some other kind of optical illusion. And I think that they know there's also a huge classified group of the former. And they live in this area of mystery. They think of all the craziest things it could be, and they write books about it, and they talk about it, and they have conferences about it. There's money to be made in it. I've been saying this, y'all. There's money to be made. That's why so many people are talking about it.
The airspace above Langley Air Force Base for more than 2 weeks. The intrusions were so serious that an entire squadron of F-22s was relocated. And to this day, as far as I am aware, the Air Force still does not know the origin or capability of these craft. Since then, incursions of a similar nature struck Barksdale Air Force Base in Louisiana. This fall, extraordinary intrusions involving fiery orbs that appeared to be intelligently controlled, were detected at one of our most sensitive and important military test ranges. Senator Roger Wicker, chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, has said publicly, after receiving the highest level classified briefings, that the Pentagon remains, in his words, quote, mystified. This disruptive pattern has been repeated at U.S. bases at home and abroad, as well as Navy ships at sea, ranging from U.S. military facilities in Guam, all the way across the Pacific and North America, to Europe and the Middle East. The facts are undeniable. Something gravely serious is occurring in our airspace, and in many cases, our government does not understand the origin, capability, or intentions of these intruders. The sooner we learn the truth, the better our chances for preparing.
Man, that's what, and if you watched my episode last night, I'm so sorry because I said Epstein on Rogan said it, but Weinstein, my apologies, on Rogan was talking about this, how maybe there's a technology that an adversary or adversaries possess that allows them to temporarily maybe either gain control of our airspace or cause us to lose control of said airspace. I believe that was what he was saying on the Rogan podcast.
Preparing for whatever comes next. That may be transformational, because if it turns out, as I believe the evidence increasingly suggests it will, that some of these craft are of non-human origin, the implications are not merely scientific. They ripple outward from national security into economics, into religion and philosophy, into the deepest questions of human identity. We must urgently learn the truth for a number of reasons. First, democracy requires transparency. The American people have a right to know the truth of such a fundamentally important issue. The alternative is the modern equivalent of suppressing Copernicus or Darwin. Concealing the truth undermines faith in government, and that faith is already fragile enough. Second, we own any discovery. If exotic materials were recovered, then they belong to the American people as their recovery was funded by our tax dollars. Third, we can handle the truth. A poll recently conducted by the Disclosure Foundation shows that 89% of Republicans and a similar number of Democrats.
Christopher Mellon, making it extremely, extremely difficult for me not to do my terrible Jack Nicholson impression and talk about handling the truth. I won't do it. I won't make you suffer through it. I promise.
Democrats want greater transparency around UAP, a clear bipartisan call for the truth. 70% believe UAP are a real phenomenon. Our ancestors endured profound disruptions to their understanding of the world via, for example, Copernicus and Darwin. A Disclosure Foundation research paper recently published by Dr. Janice Villauer and other eminent psychologists found that while certain high-risk populations may experience ontological shock, most people will in fact handle the truth. The principal public health concern is system strain, not mass panic.
That's funny to me. How could you possibly gauge the impact something like that's going to have on people or the population? Like, it'll be fine. Nobody will panic. Like, maybe there'll be a few people that have a problem with it, but I mean, mostly it's going to be totally fine. This is like a world that loses its shit over everything. Like, you think, like, forget America. How's the rest of the world going to react? That's so silly to me. That's your take, that people wouldn't, they'd just be fine with it. Okay. All right.
Fourth, secrecy stifles silence. If we have recovered off-world technologies, our best and brightest minds should be working on them now. Breakthroughs in propulsion, energy, and material science could be within reach. Even if there are no recovered materials, confirming the existence of non-human craft would still prove transformational, far more so, for example, than the Sputnik.
No, they kill scientists trying to change propulsion. What do you think they're going to do to aliens?
Program that shocked the nation and eventually led to our landing on the moon. Fifth, disclosure is likely inevitable. Commercial satellite imagery is becoming ubiquitous. The Galileo project at Harvard, led by Dr. Avi Loeb, who will be speaking later today, is one of several civilian organizations deploying dedicated UAP sensor networks. Organizations around the world and foreign governments from Japan.
This is a rough one for me, y'all, because I got to eat some serious fucking crow on this episode, because I was convinced that Avi Loeb was full of shit when he said he was going to be on that disclosure advisory board. And it's not without, cause. I mean, it's not like we haven't seen the guy look at the camera and lie out of his teeth for money before. But this group on this forum today, this is very interesting mixture here. So Kirk McConnell, Harold Putoff. Right out the gate, we got two guys arguably involved in the legacy program. We've got a guy right now speaking who some think is a big part of the legacy program. Gotti Schwartz, Mike Gold, Matthew Tuttle, Timothy Gaudet, Jonathan Miller, Jordan Flowers, Avi Loeb, Carlos Iyer, Kristen Fisher, Pippa Malmgren. I like that name, Pippa Malmgren. Janice Villauer, Susan Winterberg, and Marieke von Rennenkampf. So that is who is a part of this Disclosure Forum 2026. And I'm going to put this link in the chat for you all in case you want to go visit this page. Hey, Nicole, what's up? Whopper John, nice to see you. Okay, so here is the link. I don't know. You might have to copy and paste that because YouTube's so stupid. I say it while I'm on YouTube. But that is essentially the group in the group, and I think primarily who spoke today.
Japan to France are mounting increasingly sophisticated UAP collection campaigns. The next mass US UAP sighting over a major city like Washington may be captured on hundreds of cameras and powerful civilian radars. Better to have disclosure on our terms than to be overtaken by events. Finally, disclosure could transform international relations for the better. Ronald Reagan, speaking before the UN General Assembly in 1987, said something that has stayed with me.
Okay, but he said, like, what if they were an enemy and we all had to unite against them? How quickly we would unite if there was like this otherworldly enemy. So I don't know what kind of Disney spin Chris Mellon's going to try and put on it here, but that's what Ronald Reagan said. You can go back and look at it.
Quote, in our obsession with the antagonisms of the moment, we often forget how much unites all members of humanity. Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bond. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside.
An alien threat or a meteor that's going to wipe us all off the face of the planet, or any threat to the earth would bring us together. It's so funny how this quote gets misused. UFO researchers are like, oh my God, that's proof. Aliens are real. No, it's not. He was making a point. When you're all in the same boat together, y'all are going to start working together to bail that water if you have to. Y'all are going to work together to get that boat moving if you have to. Could have said that about anything. He said it about aliens. I promise it didn't have shit to do with aliens.
Outside this world. Reagan was imagining a perceived threat. What I'm imagining is something somewhat distinct, not a threat as much as a revelation and an opportunity. If disclosure comes, and I believe it eventually will, then as former President Reagan suggested, it will force humanity to see itself differently. Not primarily as Americans and Russians, or Chinese and Christians, or Christians and Muslims, or atheists or conservatives, or other members of competing tribes, but as one people traveling together aboard a small planet sailing through an incomprehensibly vast ocean of space. With disclosure, many of the divisions that consume us today will begin to look very small. This is crucial to our long-term survival because the most dangerous challenges we face, including weapons of mass destruction, pandemics, artificial intelligence, bioterrorism, and global warming, each require new and unprecedented levels of international cooperation.
We need the aliens to save us. Aliens. This is so funny. This is like the people that think that aliens are going to come and stop a nuclear war. They're not going to come and stop a nuclear war. Do you know how terribly bloody so many of the wars between World War II and today in Iran are? We blew up a school full of children in Iran. No alien stopped it from happening. It's not going to happen. And no aliens are going to bring us together. I digress.
Disclosure is the only thing I can think of big enough to bring about the change of perspective required of the leading nations of this world. I suspect that someday we'll look back on this period as the closing chapter of one era and the beginning of another, an era in which humanity first began to understand that it is part of a larger reality. All of us at the Disclosure Foundation believe it is wiser to prepare for the future than conceal it. So we need to continue asking the difficult questions and following the evidence wherever it leads. That is the spirit with which we approach this symposium.
Now, everybody look at this orb video that Michael Batista just dropped.
Not with fear or denial, but with curiosity and integrity. At the same time, our ignorance regarding alien life leaves room for fearful thoughts as well, admittedly. As the engineer and author Dandridge Cole wrote, "Space is a sea without end, which washes on countless strange and exotic shores, where the conceivable forms of the living and the dead are greatly outnumbered by the inconceivable, where the known is lost in the unknown, and where new dangers hide in undiscovered shadows in unimagined forms. Fear of the unknown has always been with us. Only the truth can dispel those fears." Thank you and welcome to the first annual Disclosure Forum.
All right, now who's this joker?
Thank you so much, Chris. So before our next panel here, which is the Congressional Roundtable on UAP Transparency, I would like to first discuss that today, the Disclosure...
Brother, look, the hair. You got to eat that.
Foundation is proud to honor 4 members of Congress who have dared to ask questions that others wouldn't. Representatives Anna Paulina Luna, Tim Burchett, Eric Burleson, and Andre Carson have been relentless in their commitment to UAP transparency, pushing for access to classified programs, holding hearings that brought credible witnesses before the public record, and refusing to accept stonewalling as an answer.
Do you know why? Oh, I love this because I could just rant. Do you know why I have really become kind of just over that whole group of people? Because since taking over this UAP task force, since being a part of this UAP task force, all they have done collectively is muddy the waters. You got one talking about fucking hybrids. You got one talking about if we knew the truth, we wouldn't fucking sleep at night. You got one saying they're fucking aliens and posting pictures on X of interdimensional fucking aliens. You got one that seems like he's just in the wrong room. He's like, fuck, what the fuck did I get myself into? All it has done is make things more confusing. That is all this group has managed to do. And all of the shocking things we heard under oath, the details of those things still not have come out in skiffs as they should have. And I bet you by the time I'm back, David Grush still hasn't gone in a skiff. What do you want to bet?
Their work has moved the needle in Washington in ways that few thought possible just a few years ago. They've taken seriously what too many of their colleagues have dismissed, and in doing so, they've given a voice to a demand that millions of Americans have been making for decades. Full disclosure and no more secrets kept from the people who deserve the truth. The Disclosure Award exists to recognize those who have worked tirelessly in the service of this effort. So please.
Again, I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of hate from this Disclosure Foundation because this just seems like a joke to me. But this is being rebroadcast from The Hill. Thank you, The Hill. Don't forget to subscribe to The Hill. YouTube channel.
Join me in welcoming Representatives Luna, Burchett, Burleson, and Carson. Are they?
So brave.
Thank you.
So brave.
I feel like you're winning an Oscar. It's better than an Oscar. No, honestly, we're not the brave ones. The brave ones are the men who have come forward in our hearings. People like Sean Ryan, Jeff Nusatelli. We've had
Sean Ryan.
Woo. Matthew Brown, David.
Wait. Sean Ryan came forward in your UAP hearing. Sean Nusatelli, Matthew Brown. That's what I'm saying. This guy's like, he doesn't even know where he is half the time.
Grush, Lou Elizondo, yes. Chief Wiggins and Dylan Borland. I'm sure I'm forgetting someone, but these are the brave people that have come forward, and I'm just somebody who.
And if you go through my videos, you'll notice I have not shredded a single whistleblower because I understand like they're navigating a system that is set up to fuck them over. Like they reach out for help and they're given assistance contact information. They're not given any protection. They're not given any kind of structure or assurances for what's going to happen after the fact. They're used and abused and tossed to the side. And so I don't blame a single whistleblower for not giving more details in a skiff. I really don't. I don't know if I could trust these people either. Clearly you can't. They're politicians. So the only one I have a little bit of problem with is Mr. Grush. And that's only because he has given so many incredible claims. He has made so many incredible claims. And the reason he says he hasn't gone to a skiff yet is absolutely not believable. It's just not. There's no reason why they didn't have you in a skiff providing details as promised under oath. The rest of them, time will tell, right? It always does. Time always tells. And we'll find out if they're legit or just more obfuscation as well. But we're so quick to rush to judgment. See, then you get it wrong when like I did with Avi Loeb and the UAP Scientific Council. I'm waiting on those guys. Grush, I don't know much about, but this UAP task force folks, do not, I hope for your sake, you're not pinning your hopes of disclosure on them, because they are certainly not where it's going to come from.
Is just trying to do my job to honor what they've done, the brave work that these men have and they've made these sacrifices. Their lives are not as rosy as they could have been if they had stayed quiet. So we all owe it to them and everybody else that's thinking about coming forward. The first thing that we need to do, and this is what I'm pressing on this administration, the first thing you need to do is you need to make it right to these brave people who have come forward and spoke the truth. And so, I mean, this has been quite a journey for me. the good part of the journey is I get to meet some amazing people. And this, there's within the UAP community, there's factions, there's different personalities, but I consider you all my family in a way. And so some of the brightest and smartest people in the world. And so it's an honor. I will proudly display this in my office, and the fight continues. And so thank you. Thank you very much.
They gave him he got a reward. How did I miss? How did I miss that? He got an award? Oh, man.
We're going to have a seat here, and then we can just inform them with. So, as you might see, several of those people who I mentioned are not here right now. So we are subject to some of the scheduling challenges and busy schedules that the Congress people have. So while we are, I believe, Representative Carson will be here at 9:30. And certainly he is welcome to come to the front when he arrives. But I think in the meantime, perhaps what we can do, Representative Burleson, is, a part of this conversation, a part of this panel is meant to engage with the media, for them to be able to ask questions, and for us to have a little bit of an interaction during this time. So if there's a few people from the Disclosure Foundation who can grab these mics, we'd be happy to take questions from the members of the media that are here, that are reporting on this topic. We are really blessed to be able to have sort of an embarrassment of riches of media coverage today for this topic. Representatives from The Atlantic, from Time Magazine, from CBS, from the New York Times, from Vice. The list goes on. And I know I'm leaving some people out there. Forgive my memory. So why don't we, members of the media, again. Oh, and Representative Subramanian, you're here. Please come. Welcome to the stage. And Representative Anna Paulina Luna, welcome to the stage. No worries. No need to apologize. And Representative Subramanian is here as well. So I'm happy, if you guys would like to make quick remarks, happy to do that. This is really your time. And then if you'd like to engage with questions from the media for the rest of this time slot, that's also great. We have until about 10 a.m. here. So this is really for you guys. And these are your awards. We announced the Disclosure Award. So these are yours.
The Disclosure Award is at the UAP Task Force Participation Award. Good job trying.
So I'm just going to open it right up. And I think Representative Carson is going to be here at 9:30. But please go ahead.
I already did say something.
There you go.
I already did kind of give a little bit, but I did miss Ryan Graves, and
I have one. Rep Luna. So are angels interdimensional beings and extraterrestrial? I'm just trying to clarify your ex post.
Rear Admiral Gallaudet, and if I missed somebody else, I really apologize. But thank you. My stress is that we're just doing our role. The brave people are the ones that have come forward to testify. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you to everyone who's here, whether it's Dr. Avi Loeb, the scientists, or whistleblowers, and then also to the members on this panel. So to kind of provide some context and background, when we first started these investigations, people, I'm sure as people have probably called you, they thought we were crazy. They said that, this was made up. It wasn't true. We were also told that this was, a disinformation campaign. Some people thought that we were trying to, release stuff to distract from what's really happening in Washington. But the reality is that, ultimately we believe that if
It's like she has her script, right? Like this is her on every podcast she's been on for like the last year.
This information does exist, which it does. It belongs to the American people to decide, and really the world to decide and see what information is out there pertaining to the question of, are we alone in this universe? And so I could not have done this as the task force chair without these members, as well as Tim Burchett, Begich, Jared Moskowitz, all the other members who put their name, their credibility, their elections on the line on this topic. And because of your help, because of everyone who's really come together, and this is really a community.
I think that's bullshit too. I think like this gets your name on a national level. Like, do you really think Tim Burchett would have been invited to the Joe Rogan Experience in front of millions and millions and millions of people he would have never been introduced to if it were not for being part of the UAP task force? This hurts your career? I don't think so. Maybe in 1958, not these days.
Community effort. We now have some of the most historic disclosure, I think, in U.S. history.
You're too loud. Okay, this is it. Ladies and gentlemen, NHI have taken out Rep. Ana Paulina Luna's mic. It's confirmed. This is an NHI attack.
And help spearhead the effort, hopefully setting the standard for members of Congress and for elected officials to come. Your turn.
I think your mic's working. Yeah. Hi, I'm Congressman Suhas Subramaniam. I represent Virginia. I'm new to Congress, so I'm new to this topic and every other topic, really. But I was interested in this because as a non-congressman, I was very interested in why some federal agencies thought that they knew better than the people, that the people weren't ready for full disclosure, that we needed to hide things from the people. And so given the work that was done before me by you all and by the folks, other members on this stage, I'm coming into a much better situation than you came into, with a lot less stigma, a lot more willingness to disclose. And so I look forward to joining the work and continuing the work that started and trying to make sure that we make real progress on this issue. So thanks for having me.
I've got a quick question. If there's no other immediate questions from the media right now. So the Disclosure Foundation commissioned a poll recently, and the results of that poll, I think Chris Mellon mentioned in his speech, 89% of Republicans and 88% of Democrats want transparency with respect to the UAP topic. What is your reaction to that? What do you see on Congress in terms of this being a bicameral, bipartisan issue, and how can we use the tools of Congress to effectuate transparency and disclosure?
We didn't have to see polling to know that. We saw just the amount of people support for our hearings that this is an overwhelmingly important issue to many people, and also don't forget the independents. They're out there too, but as I'm sure you can imagine, things get polarized. And this is the one thing where we can go in and we can all say, we don't like the fact that these different agencies are telling us that we know for a fact these documents exist, and they're saying that they can't locate them or whatever it might be.
Yeah, this fucking guy with a fucking man bun telling me what I can and cannot see. Fucking man bun.
I will say, and had it not been for, I think, President Trump doing what he did, forcing these agencies to divulge the information, we would have still been stonewalled. In fact, I think Representative Burleson, when we initially sent out that letter requesting, the 20 to 40 plus documents,
Oh my God, the Disclosure Forum people need to get their shit together. Terrible. literally can't hear a thing they're saying.
Anybody else would like to respond to that? Or I can move on if not.
Is this on purpose, y'all? Is the CIA hacking the Disclosure Forum? I knew it. They don't want us to see what's going on.
It's a bipartisan.
Oh, bipartisan.
Absolutely, and we are delighted that you're here, and that Representative Carson can still hopefully attend. But I know things change, and that's DC,
Yeah,
right?
like your hair, bud.
I'm often asked,
mean, but it's true.
What's different now? What's different about this time period? And for disclosure, I usually reference. I don't think ever before have we had this amount of presidential will behind getting to the truth. Can you comment on what you have seen from the executive branch?
What are you talking about? Every time Trump talks about it, he's like, I don't really care about it. Sure. Look at the files. I don't give a shit.
What you're able to tell the public now about the cutting edge and latest developments on that front. We have all of these entities now. We have ARROW, the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. We have at the DNI, we have the DIG, the Directors Initiative Group. We have the Pursue program. Historically, we've had the UAP Task Force and AIMSIG. Can you describe what is different about this moment with all of these entities?
Nothing.
I think what's different
It's more complicated.
is, again, I go back to the people that came forward. You have highly credible individuals who have made their way, through the ranks, and they're giving up so much to come forward, and you can't help but admire these men. And when you hear them talk, you sense the genuineness and the honesty in what they're saying. And so I think that bravery is what has caused this the snowball. And then I think you had this magic moment where we had members of Congress who were willing to spend the time and the effort to do it. And then you had, on top of that, a president who has an attitude that is very much an outsider attitude. I mean, he came in with a distrust of government. I think the fact that they went after him for so much means he has no interest in making, the deep state happy at all. And so I think that combination is one that is this perfect moment, if you will, that for disclosure. And we have seen so much success recently. When President Trump came in, I think that he quickly moved on the JFK files, on disclosure of the MK Ultra, and then et cetera. And we kept asking, Anna and I and Tim kept, anytime we would have that little moment with the president, or his people, kept prodding and asking, when are you going to do the same thing for the UAP files? And I think that it wasn't until we had that series of hearings, and then just everything that kind of fell into place when Barack Obama made his statement.
We went through so many of those released UFO files. You can go back and look at the older episodes, but as the tranches were tranched, we tranched through them. And it was a lot of the reports that they made back then were very similar to the reports that are made today. And even like the video from back then is very similar to the type of video that we get today. So like the releases were cool because it told us, all this stuff that we've been looking at over the years that was leaked, now we can confirm it's legitimate. And also there's a lot of similarities between what they said they were seeing back then and what they actually were seeing back then and what we are seeing today. but it didn't go anywhere back then. Ever. And maybe it's more complicated what they're doing now because of the layers of media, but they're doing the same thing now. This will go nowhere. This will go to an area where people are going to debate about reality. It's like a religious debate, just like a lot of people have warned us about.
I think that all kind of created this momentum that we're all being able to experience. And now what we're seeing is an administration who is, I mean, they are absolutely hell-bent to get the information out.
I swear, y'all,
that was obviously kind of the low-hanging fruit and the easy things to release at the beginning. I think as we get into this more and more, it's gonna be more difficult because you're now to get to the answers. We were talking about this last night, that as administrations have come in and left, they don't always transfer that knowledge to the next political people, appointees. And so as a result, I think we have a lot of lost information in the same way that we forgot how to go to the moon, or for a period of decades, we forgot how to build nuclear reactors. I think the same thing happened with this topic. You have, as new administrations would come in, the people that might have a little bit of knowledge about this, they kind of quietly buried it or never really shared that. And so now it's like we're rediscovering, it feels like the administration is rediscovering and digging into archives and documents and everything they possibly can to get at the truth. And so we're at that stage. It's now going to be a little bit more, it's going to be quite a bit more difficult, and it's only going to get more difficult. But I think we have an administration that is hell-bent to make it happen.
Yeah, I can just add on to that too. I want to give a quick thank you to Christopher Mellon over here for everything. Specifically pertaining to everything that you did with helping us locate some of these documents, because when we gathered our list together, kind of our wish list, if we could ideally have everything we wanted out declassified, we brought that list and said, where did you get this list? And we said, we have friends too. And so you would be one of our friends. I just, what we do is we can push, we can pull. DC kind of operates on two things, pain and pressure. So those are our levers that we get to pull. Sometimes we do both. And on this topic specifically, it has become so enormous with the interest that now you even have people that even a year ago, I was getting teased about it. Okay. They're like, Luna, you're on Joe Rogan. This sounds a little crazy. Said, who's sounding crazy now, buddy? So all that, thank you. Yeah, all that to say that, this is a really big team effort. The one thing specifically, people say, we want to know where locations of craft and biologics are, right? So we know for a fact that there have been a few very credible whistleblowers that we've talked to that allege that they have information specifically pertaining to this, but they're afraid of losing their clearances. So we have talked directly to the White House. Stephen Miller is absolutely incredible on this topic. And we are providing them with a list of people that will be given immunity in that they will not have to face retribution in the future for violation of their security clearance, or in some cases, maybe the Espionage Act, whatever it might be. And that will be them going to the White House, divulging what information they have.
I swear to God, y'all, if they give these people blanket immunity, I'm going to lose it. If it's true, if we kidnapped people from third world countries, including children, brainwashed them, programmed to become psionic operators or whatever, remote viewers, whatever. You want to give immunity for that? I fucking don't.
And we're following up on it. I'm not saying that I have personally seen stuff. I haven't. But what I am saying is that we are taking the information that we have received. We are handing it off. We are going to get them immunity and protection so that they can divulge that information, and let's see where it leads.
Thank you.
Let's say just one little spinoff of this is a private industry that was working on new aerospace tech that they knew carried the risk of maybe giving those around it radiation sickness. And so what they do is they put together a fake UFO scheme. They get people around them to believe what's flying around is a UFO. And like people die and shit. People get cancer. People get sick. People die. Nobody's liable because it was aliens. So it's fucking aliens. And they're fucking crazy beams of power we don't understand. Sorry, it got you. It's really convenient for that company developing that questionable technology, right? I mean, there's no way a private company would take advantage of people like that, right? They wouldn't do shit like that.
Thank you so much. And I want to point out the modesty of this man. So Representative Carson, please join us on the stage. We have a seat for you right here. This man has been a leader in this topic, and the level of leadership and modesty, he was sitting in the back, like patiently waiting. Yes. Oh, wow. I'm good to hear you. Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So Representative Subramaniam needed to depart.
Like, who the fuck are these people that are giving standing applauses and shit? Like, who are these people?
But Representative Carson, welcome, and thank you so much. We've had several meetings with you and your team. You're a true leader on this topic. Well, another question that I wanted to ask of the group is, this sort of gets to the issues that were just discussed, but what asks do you have for the president, and how can organizations like ours and members of Congress and the tools available to you, how can we try to effectuate those asks?
I think you kind of mentioned it. I want to see it, everything made right to the people that have come forward and made sacrifices on the lost their pensions, their medical benefits, et cetera. I think that first and foremost, you got to make it right to those people. That will demonstrate to everybody else who wants to come forward that it's a safe place to come into. And then I think what Anna is leading on is fantastic, in that making sure that the administration knows that there may be some times where these individuals who they were promoted into a system or a program, sometimes they're now inheriting things where they realize, well, there's crimes involved in this. And so, if you want to, they're kind of put in an awkward situation. Do they do their patriotic duty? What do they do? I think that providing some level of amnesty for them to be able to come forward is very, very important. And then I finally think also that they need to waive the non-disclosure agreements on this topic. Particularly just waive it completely for anything related to the knowledge of life that's outside, non-human intelligence. I don't see why we possibly should even allow that to be a top secret thing. And so if there's anything that's related to that, it should be waived. I think that's what our ask is of this administration, as well as to continue digging into the private sector. I think that a lot of this information is in the hands of either the archives of these federally funded research and development centers, and then further some of the prime subs that have been working on this topic. And so I think that it's going to take making it clear that to our major companies that we do business with or do business with the United States, that it's okay to come forward. And I think that we're going to have a discussion if they're reverse engineering stuff that they got because it was from non-human intelligence. We need to make sure that we can have that conversation about intellectual property. So those are the next steps.
Yeah, I actually commend the administration and President Trump, though I've been very critical of them politically.
This is like really fucking terrible. This is like their official stream. I mean, it is rebroadcast through the Hill, but it's their audio. Like somebody pointed another mic at him, didn't help.
Adam Schiff was the chairman of the Intelligence Committee, and I approached Adam Schiff, now Senator Schiff, about this idea. And to Adam's credit, he was a good chair. He was very supportive. There was a lot of rumblings about why I wanted to have this hearing. And obviously, it's a very sensitive topic. And someone said, well, why would you take this on when you have enough on you? You're Black from Indiana, you're Muslim, and now you're talking about UAPs. Yeah, that's true. That is 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 true. And so my interest began as a child. Time Life, I'm dating myself. They had a series.
Okay, you all are gonna probably hate me for this, and I get it. I understand. But so far, it appears what we have here is a giant circle jerk. Where they're going to be talking about how wonderful they are and how wonderful each other are for all of the podcasts that they've done this last year, talking about UFOs and aliens. I swear to God, that's what this feels like. We are 36 minutes in, and that is seriously the vibe I'm getting.
Series on mysteries of the unknown.
Good job.
And at the time I was 16, and I ordered the first book, which was free.
If it wasn't for you guys, I don't know how Disclosure Day would have done in the box office. Thank you.
And I didn't get a subscription, but the first book that came was a book about UFOs. And so that started my interest. Even though I'm a Star Wars fanatic and a bit of a Trekkie, I still wanted answers. And so I was a police officer. I worked for the Indiana Department of Homeland Security and Counterintelligence and Counterterrorism. And when I got to Congress, sitting on the Intelligence Committee, it was an opportunity. So I spoke to Adam Schiff, and I said, I would love for you, since you've been supportive about me having this open hearing, and obviously there are some security concerns, I would love for you to attend. Adam attended, and he told me, he said, Andre, a lot of folks on the Senate side are so upset and jealous because they wanted to do this, but they were fearful that they'd be attacked. A couple of folks are in the administration right now. I'll give them a shout out. But so when we had that hearing, the attendance wasn't as robust as it is in this room, but it did spark something. They were like, well, Andre, you're the godfather of modern UAP hearings. Well, you know, I'm just someone who's supportive, and I'm supportive of whistleblower protections, and I'm supportive of making sure that folks who want to come forward have the opportunity to come.
Look, I put my pants on one leg at a time, just like you. It's just that when I'm done, I'm basically the king of UFO and UAP shit. Yep.
Come forward without hindering promotional opportunities or anything of the sort. So we appreciate many of the civilian organizations, many of the filmmakers, the Disclosure Foundation. We appreciate you dearly because this is so critically important. And I want to thank Anna, my colleagues, for being so bold. This is not just a bipartisan issue. This is an American issue. And this is a very serious issue. Now, the balance is that while my colleagues have had open hearings, and I love it and I support them, I think on the Intelligence Committee and in the open hearings, we always have to be very mindful because our adversaries are constantly watching and listening for context clues to see what we're working on and what we're developing. So there's the balance there, but there's also the mystery there, where our Five Eyes partners and other folks in the IC have to work together to provide comfort to the global community about what's really taking place while protecting.
Right. So basically saying we're going to run with the UFO thing to cover our undercover aerospace shit for as long as, you know, things are kind of, it's been working for 80 years. I mean, we flew a silent helicopter into Pakistan to go get Osama bin Laden that was classified. Congress didn't even know they funded it, and it was built at Area 51. So there's that whole side of it too. While y'all thought we were working with aliens at Area 51, we were developing a silent fucking helicopter at Area 51. It was easier for us to continue to let you think we're doing alien stuff there. Because if you think that, then China thinks that, and North Korea thinks that, and Iran and Russia and everybody else, that's what they think too. I was saying it last night. This is why magicians are so successful in the UFO field. They have a very good feel for how it's really working. It's unfortunate because people that just want to understand the experience that they've had can't get a clear answer. And there's definitely not a good group of folks to support them. There's a few, but not enough. So here's a guy justifies the misleading and the withholding of information. Security. Keep it secure.
Our national security. It's a balancing act, but it must be done. But we support you and know that you have firepower in Congress as we work with the administration to protect the folks who speak out and to see what else is out there. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And apologies that we're having the, like you were saying, the suspicious audio video issues for sure that seem to travel with this topic.
It comes with it.
It's the NHI.
So it sounds like what you're saying is that there is this question: can we have transparency? Can we tell the truth to the American public while simultaneously preserving our national security and avoiding strategic surprise? And while there may be problems to solve there, it sounds like the answer from this panel to the American public is a resounding yes. Would you concur with that? Yeah, I think that's a really powerful statement to hear in this room, the same room that held the Iran-Contra hearings. That
basically we can't tell you shit because of national security. But good job, y'all. So we're making real headway? Yeah, sure.
Held the Watergate hearings, a storied room that is dedicated to transparency and disclosure. So another question for you is: what other tools exist? Subpoenas have been discussed. Our organization has discussed the potentiality for a national intelligence estimate, which is, I think, not controversial. Would you comment on some of these other tools that may exist from a policy perspective? There is the UAP Disclosure Act. There's other potential legislation in the works. Would you comment on that for us?
I will just say that all of these members have.
Holy fuck. How many times? I've said this 100 times. Chuck Schumer's getting behind that first Disclosure Act happened because they completely gutted any real accountability or power behind it. The very next year it failed. Last year it did not even get added to the bill, to the budget. whatever the fuck they called it. The UAP disclosure bill has been dead since it started. UAP Disclosure Act was never enforceable. It had no legs, no accountability. It got no fucking bite behind it, you know what I mean? Can't do shit. What are you going to do? But they knew that. It was just like popular to say. Yeah, we got the UAP Disclosure Act passed. Oh, yeah? So if they don't provide you a report or lie to you about a report that they provided, then what? Well, nothing. So it's like totally voluntary. Yeah. Oh, cool. Sweet. Way to get shit done. All right, we're going to switch it up just a little bit because yesterday, if you were watching and if you've been paying attention on X, we had a woman come forward who is on said UAP task force and told us that there are places where NHI go and hang out, and they're hybrids. And she knows. She didn't tell us where, but there are places. Check this out.
This feels like a historic moment for UAP disclosure, Sarah. What do you think comes next?
In my professional experience, yes, there is definitely NHI, non-human intelligence, that is visited here for many decades. And in a personal capacity, I have also had encounters in public where I have met NHI as well. So there are definitely things that the government is going to have to come clean on soon.
You met NHI in public. Can you please explain more?
Yeah, there was a space where it is known for NHI to be present. They do look kind of similar to humans, but there's quite a few around in the area here in the DC metro area where some NHI show up.
So what you're implying is that these not NHIs look very human. They could walk among us and we may not notice.
Correct. I first noticed the energy of the entity walking in before I even knew who they were or anything. I felt the energy first, and then I looked at what my body was reacting to.
What was that energy like when you encountered this NHI?
My first thought, it was a hybrid, so it was part human, part NHI. I feel like my body kind of got rigid because it didn't know how to react. It didn't know what it was encountering because that really hasn't happened before in public. It definitely had a very different body shape, body form, like all kinds of, and the eyes changed. It was very interesting.
Wow. We are living.
Different body shape, different body form. Its eyes changed, and they gather in an unknown location somewhere in the DC area. And we didn't touch a lot on who this was yesterday, but this was Sarah Gam, and she did work with the UAP task force. And we just heard her say she's met non-human intelligence in public. It's known places that they go to, like if you're in, you know where the NHI are, you know where they hang out and shit. It's like the cool bar with the side door. Doesn't have the entry in front. You gotta know how to get there. And then hybrids and eyes got mixed into it. And that's been going around the last couple of days on X like a wildfire. And I can see why. She worked on the UAP task force. That checks out. And she's talking about seeing NHI hybrids around town there. Now, I will be in the greater New England area, we'll say, soon. And I'll be on the lookout for hybrid locations just for you all. And if I find one, I will record it with my iPhone And then you can tell me. Of course, like they say, it would probably be all blurry and shit. You wouldn't be able to make anything out. I could do like Batista and just record a puddle and call it a being in an orb. Oh, I'm such a dick. All right, here we go.
At some point backed and been vocal advocates for the UAP Disclosure Act, whistleblower protections, FAA reportings. But the problem is that staff and or various members in leadership then
I am not doing this, y'all, I swear. So now it's like completely muted.
together and back channeling the information that people are able to feed us so that we
Oh, I see. It's all gone to one side, which is not the earplug I had plugged in.
Now DNI Pulte is very good as well. But specifically to the allies that we have within the administration, the secretaries for the most part are all playing ball with us. And we actually have great correspondence, but it's not the secretaries that are the issue. As you know, the federal government is a massive, massive group of people. And so if someone isn't on the same page that we are on this topic, they're going to stonewall, they're going to try to wait us out. And that's exactly why we kind of have to work together on this. To be able to get those items. And then I'll just end with saying this, you know, at our last hearing with Representative Burleson releasing the footage of a Hellfire missile being deflected by one of these things, you know, I don't ever tell people what they can and can't do in hearing. I actually applaud him for moving that forward. And I remember someone had said, well, you know, that was, you know, potentially classified. I said, well, you know, it'd be great if you guys responded back to us, because when you don't respond, this is his right as an elected, duly elected representative of Congress to provide transparency. And also deflect the Hellfire missile. I can't. So there's that.
Well, at least you got the joke.
We're trying to get
The rest of us can't hear what the fuck they're saying.
Disclosure Act to put on the National Defense Authorization Act. That's supposedly next week, assuming the time, or the next coming weeks, assuming that, yeah, I mean,
We're open.
it's,
Good Lord.
but again, we are facing difficulties. And I mean, it's so frustrating because it's not members. I don't, at least if it is members, they're not coming to me and saying, hey, I'm not allowing your amendment. It's staff. And it's like, who elected you? You were not elected. I mean, it's for you to be able to deny, so, you know, an elected official whose my job is to answer to the people, and you're going to deny me the ability to get this amendment, at least even offered, is unacceptable. And so right now we're trying to get that made in order so that when it comes to the floor, at least we get an opportunity to have a vote on the UAP Disclosure Act, and then you'll know who supports it and who doesn't. But I've got to get Intelligence Committee to approve that. And so any help, Representative Carson, would be greatly appreciated. If you could lean on our chairman and others, that would be fantastic. But we've got to get it made in order. And if we can get it on the if we get it out of the House, I think we're halfway there. And then I think we've got allies in the Senate, whether it's.
If I remember the after school special, how a bill gets passed, I'm pretty sure that's how it works. You're halfway there.
Senator Schumer, and I cannot believe that I am sponsoring the language that Senator Schumer also is sponsoring. But you know, what's right is right, and truth is truth. And
oh my God.
And we're all Americans.
Are we witnessing a room full of hybrids in front of us? Wouldn't that be weird? Who else gives these characters stand-up ovations for a conference?
And that's why this is such a common sense thing. And the only thing that's going to stop it is these staffers who are killing things behind the scenes in the cover of darkness. And so that's what we're facing right now. So your help getting vocal on this is probably the only way we're going to get it done.
Thank you for that. I would like to open it up again to questions from the media.
Has anyone heard a question?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Gentlemen, great to see you. So Matt Ford from the Good Trouble Show. 2 years ago, the former police chief of Ord, Nebraska, handed me over 60 pages of 911 calls from 2019 and 2020 documenting hundreds of craft, some as large as an SUV, surrounding towns, hovering over public schools and shining spotlights into ranchers' homes. Multiple law enforcement officers described close encounters with these craft as close as 50 feet that were completely silent, one of them exhibiting instantaneous acceleration. The FBI, the FAA, DHS, and AFOSI were called in to investigate and disappeared when the swarms did. This past February, the government shut down all El Paso airspace and blamed cartel drones, but a source with direct knowledge of the incident told me this was a cover story and characterized the incursion into U.S. airspace as extremely
Yeah, I think you got it, Whopper. Their own shit.
alarming, this one particular incident. From Nebraska to El Paso, the official story keeps changing and then disappearing. Congressionally, what can be done to sort of end the cycle of obfuscation from the DOD, IC, and the National Security Council?
Well, again, I haven't worked for state excise police, sheriff's department, and security.
All right. So the answer to that question is going to be, well, I don't know any specifics about that individual case, but if that's true, then of course we would have to investigate that further. Blah, 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 blah.
That's I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I think a lot of these institutions don't even know what they have. And so, but when you all and people bring information to us,
Putting it back on you,
specific details and information, that helps us craft the letter, which then gives the instructions. And, you know, I'm maybe the 435th most powerful member of Congress, but at least I am a member and can write a letter that they might just listen to. And so that's what we're trying to do right now. And I think we've made some success. I mean, MIT Lincoln Labs, it did admit that they do have that reel-to-reel. And that led us to be able to find out that there's more to that MITRE is involved with. So now our letter to MITRE contains more detailed information.
I guess we missed an important question.
Office, we're just sending direct letters, interrogatives to these, you know, whether it's MIT Lincoln Labs.
But a lot of people also have fear of, I heard you, Representative Burleson, mention private entities. You know, there's been talk about things going like crash retrieval, and I know the Schumer rounds had the eminent domain aspect of it. You know, these things go into these private companies and then they're gone. There's no oversight, there's no way to see what's really happening. And so I just wondered if you could address those questions. Thank you for your time.
So that's my focus is hearing about reports of this, hearing the reports of the, like was just mentioned, of other sightings. We've had so many, of those reports, but where's the photos? And I would say, if you've got the photos, let's see them, bring them forward. If there was that many people that cited it, then we want to see the footage. We want to see the cell phone footage, right? So, but at the end of the day, when you don't have it, it's just narrative. So that's where I'm at. I'm like, we've had a lot of great hearings with some great witnesses. And at this point, I'm as frustrated with you as you are. I want to see the real stuff. What we're trying to do in my team is take actionable information and then request it. And so right now, I don't have subpoena power personally. I got frustrated trying to go through the committee and the length of time that it takes, and again, dealing with staff. And so my team, my office, we're just sending direct letters, interrogatives to these, whether it's MIT Lincoln Labs or MITRE, Battelle and others that I don't want to say yet, we're sending these letters. We're sending letters to the FBI saying, and we're being very specific. We're saying, we want you to investigate the details of the Varhinia incident, right? And so when you get that specific, I think that's I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I think a lot of these institutions don't even know what they have. And so, but when you all and people bring information to us, specific details and information, that helps us craft the letter, which then gives the instructions. And, I'm maybe the 435th most powerful member of Congress, but at least.
That's the biggest bunch of bullshit. Like, you think that if these companies acquired this crazy tech, that they just forgot about it. This is a guy that has never sat down and watched the Terminator series. You can fucking tell. You could tell. He doesn't know about Sarah Connor. He doesn't know about the arm or the microchip that got left behind in the first one that caused the whole thing to happen. The whole John Connor time loop. This guy doesn't fucking get it.
At least I am a member and can write a letter that they might just listen to. And so that's what we're trying to do right now. And I think we've made some success. I mean, MIT Lincoln Labs, it did admit that they do have that reel to reel. And that led us to be able to
reel
find
to
out
reel?
that there's more to that MITRE is involved with. So now our letter to MITRE contains more detailed information. So we're pulling the thread. It's open. I mean, we're seeing a softening of the soil, if you will, and we're just going to keep doing that in order to get the truth. MITRE is involved with. So now our letter to MITRE contains more detailed information. So we're pulling the thread. It's open. I mean, we're seeing a softening of the soil, if you will, and we're just going to keep doing that in order to get the truth.
Before we get to another question, can you inform the public about what I think?
All right, so I just looked it up for us because I didn't fucking know this. The Lincoln Lab reel-to-reel rumor, the story which has circulated in UFO circles for decades, generally claims Lincoln Lab engineers allegedly recorded radar or telemetry data of an anomalous object. The recording supposedly exists on reel-to-reel magnetic tape. The tape allegedly includes synchronized radar tracks, voice communications, or instrumentation data. Various versions claim the tape was later classified or quietly archived. No one has ever produced the tape, identified a catalog number, or documented its chain of custody. Researchers have never found a lab report and a session record, an interview from someone directly involved describing the tape in detail, or an official acknowledgement that such a reel exists. So it's basically just unsupported rumor. The MITRE radar analysis rumors. A separate claim is that MITRE analyzed military radar cases involving UFOs during the Cold War. This is more plausible because MITRE has historically worked on radar systems, NORAD-related technologies, command and control software, missile defense, sensor fusion. However, the leap from MITRE analyzed radar data to MITRE has a hidden reel-to-reel proving alien craft has never been substantiated. So again, it's just kind of more stuff that we hear, but it never gets confirmed. We never see any real evidence of it. So that is the reel to reel that Burleson is talking about here.
Natural question is, what is on that reel to reel? Are you able to describe that, or is that too sensitive to discuss?
No, I can't. I don't know that it's too sensitive. I'll just give you I haven't heard it yet. So they have acknowledged that it exists and that they're in the process of getting it to us. But what my understanding is that it's and I forget the general's name. He's an Air Force general who is briefing MIT scientists about, I believe it's the event that happened in Washington, D.C. in 1952. So that would be important historical information to have.
There's a lot of people in this room who know what happened in Washington, D.C. in 1952 with this subject, which is an interesting tie-in to Beatrice Villarreal's work as well. Gentlemen, it's 10 a.m. We've reached our time. I just wanted to ask if you have any other comments.
Okay, so they reached some kind of deadline. Let's see, I'm guessing they do a lot more talking. A lot more clapping.
With his credentials intact, his documentation in order, and his reputation on the line, and told the American people what they had long suspected was worthy of
My favorite person's coming up, y'all.
serious attention. That decision cost him. It brought scrutiny, skepticism, and years of being dismissed by institutions he had served faithfully. He accepted that cost and kept going. That is what courage looks like when it matters most. A person willing to stand behind what they know to be true, regardless of what it takes. Please join me in welcoming our next recipient of the Disclosure Award, Lou Elizondo.
Lou Elizondo, ladies and gentlemen. Last at OSAP, but first in our hearts. Oh, the standing O. Now I know that room's full of hybrids.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Folks, forgive me. I'm a little bit short here, so I'm going to see if I can tiptoe over this podium. First of all, a huge thank you to the UAP Disclosure Foundation for putting this on. We've come a long way, haven't we? All of us together collectively. And we also have to recognize the brave efforts of the representatives who took time today to engage you on a topic that just 10 years ago, I never would have imagined we'd be here today collectively, all of us. But certainly, last but not least, I have to thank each and every one of you, not for this award, and not even necessarily for me being here today, but for you being here. This is democracy in action. Every single one of you, your contributions have allowed us to be where we are today.
They gave him an award? What award did they give him? Oh. Well, I'm scratching Disclosure Foundation off my Christmas list.
Your demand for the truth, the fact that you are not willing to compromise, because ultimately, at the end of the day, our democracy depends on truth. Think about that for a moment. Truth and democracy go hand in hand. And what you are witnessing today in this...
You should think about that, Lou. You really should think about that. How it goes hand in hand, how telling the truth about things really matters to us normal humans.
Incredible room full of history. In my opinion, there's more history in the making. And again, that's because of you. That's because you're having conversations around the dinner table. You're having conversations around the office water cooler. And you're not being dismissive. And you know what? Your government is listening. Politics aside, you have people from both sides of the aisle working diligently on this topic on your behalf because you demanded the truth. So congratulations, folks. Here we are.
They get shit done.
And this award, as honored as I am and privileged to be recognized, I did not know that was going to happen today. I probably would have made a convenient excuse to be in the restroom right now. But it's really a reflection of each and every one of you. As I look around the room here, I recognize faces, some of them newer, some of them I've known for a long time. And we're all here together.
I wonder if Jeremy McGowan is there. Ooh.
Witnessing and being part of history. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and be quiet and go back to the back of the room here, because really this is your day. This is not mine. This is a direct reflection of you, the American people, and the will of the American people to be heard by our government, and our government willing to listen and then to go ahead and deliver on those promises that it made so many years before. So with no further ado, to each and every one of you, thank you, thank you, thank you for all that you continue to do and all that you have done. And really, this is yours. This award belongs to each and every one of you. So thank you very much. God bless.
Wasn't supposed to get that reward.
All right. So we're going to take a 5-minute break. 5-minute break. 5. We're trying to.
Okay, so they're still talking. This is definitely longer than 5 minutes. Let's see. Oh, no, mic not working.
The oceans give us this great protection, and we don't have to worry so much.
Wow, I love it. It's like, it looks like they're having this really in-depth conversation. I literally can't hear anything. I don't know. Yeah. And then I was like, dude, you gave me crabs.
If there is something occurring like that over and over and over again, as we have been told, frankly, it's happened in different places throughout the Southwest, it's happened to our ships. What happens night 2, night 3, night 4, based on your information, Chris?
Surprisingly, when they came to brief the Congress, my understanding is they said they did not have any video of these objects, even though this had been going on for 17 days. I think it's another example of the lack of preparedness that we sometimes has come to light, as it did on 9/11, where we didn't have a plan for civilian airliners being hijacked.
The audio is so, like, we couldn't hear anything, so I don't even know what he's talking about, unfortunately.
And actually, I'd like to turn to the ocean. You had mentioned that we have a sense of security because we have these oceans that bound us. But the reality is that we're seeing these objects in the water. And I've had submarine officers come to me and talk about objects traveling at speeds in excess of 50 knots, closing with constant bearing, decreasing range, and having them to order emergency deep maneuvers to evade. And
dude, clearly it was the Meg.
And then the object slowed down and then trailed them for a time. And this is 3 submarine officers, very credible. So our oceans aren't as secure as we might think too. And in all those cases, though, they are reported up to higher headquarters. You've seen
higher headquarters, though. If something like that happened, and you'd expect that to go to the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I mean, that sounds like a full stop. Let's put all resources, all assets on this. And to our knowledge, that doesn't happen for some reason.
Well, no, this does happen. In fact, I have a friend who stood watch in the National Military Command Center in the Pentagon, which is the watch floor for the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Secretary of Defense, and the President, and they take reports from all the combatant commanders. And in fact, when there was that Alaska UAP following the Chinese balloon, that was reported up to my buddy who was on watch. Now, all those comms are classified, so the president knows these are reported, and what's done about it is another story.
I oscillate, as one does when you grapple with this. I oscillate between the possibility that, the credibility of the people that have come forward is pretty impressive. But it does seem that there is some sort of conspiracy cover-up. I just don't know what the nature is. It's either the government knows a lot and doesn't want to share how much they know, or the government knows little and wants to cover up their ignorance. And now we live in a day and age where we're starting to see what looks like the government saying, hey, actually, we don't know. Here's a bunch of the files. You guys look for yourself. But what camps do you all fall in? Do you think that there are repositories within the government that actually fully understand the phenomena? Or is this a circumstance of everybody is just out of their depth when it comes to UAP? Go ahead, Kirk.
I guess what I would like to say on this topic is from my 37 years up here in national security, and 8 years before that for a national security consulting company, is when the United States government perceives something that is potentially a threat, they don't ignore it. The national security establishment goes after problems, right? They may not do it perfectly, they may not do it successfully, but they don't just ignore stuff. That's my experience.
So do you think that they have solved the Langley issue? Do you think
that's different? The two questions. Mm-hmm. I think they have taken this very seriously over decades and studied the hell out of it. Whether they've succeeded in unraveling what it is and how it works and that sort of thing is a different question. We have reports from insiders, a large number of people who say, yeah, progress has really not been very significant. But you certainly have other reporting that suggests that that's not true, that there have been some really notable successes. I personally, it's just an opinion, but I think that these black triangles that fly around, I think they're probably ours, just from the circumstances of some of the eyewitness accounts from Eglin Air Force Base, from Langley Air Force Base, Dylan Borland was smoking a cigarette on Langley Air Force Base, and from the other side of the fence at NASA Langley, he sees this huge black triangle rising up, seemingly out of a big building there. And we have other reports from a naval officer. I think Chris knows this gentleman, who was driving to work at 5:30 in the morning, right outside of Norfolk, and he's looking out his sunroof, and there's this huge black triangle flying low right above him at 50 miles an hour down the interstate. So
my first experience, I was a kid, early 1990 whatever, in a field stargazing, black triangle flying low, moving slow, total stop, 90-degree turn, gone. And I've gone back and forth about this. Like, it's so weird. I didn't even talk to anybody about it. I was like, wow, that's weird. Filtered it away. Went on with my night. I used to think that was an alien thing. But then when I started really researching it, I thought, oh, that's probably like some Raytheon shit. Right? Some crazy fucking undercover thing. But it's so funny because the weird orb thing I saw several nights ago, that I don't know. I have no idea. That was crazy.
Is this a UAP, an NHI that's just, cruising along at dawn around Norfolk Air Force bases? I kind of doubt it, but who knows? And this is part of the problem with disclosure is we don't know enough to predict at this point all of the national security ramifications until we know what the hell the government knows or doesn't know.
Mark, I mean, what camp do you fall in? Does the government know a lot, or does the government know a little bit and are covering their asses here?
It's a good question. I'll maybe defer to the rest of the panel on that specific question. I want to add just a couple more elements to the Langley story and this broader narrative that we're seeing of these quote unquote drone incursions. And Langley, again, 17 nights, these objects were displaying bright flashing lights. And that's the base commander there, commander of Air Combat Command, called it close encounters at Langley because he had bright flashing lights. That's not how you do espionage or surveillance, right? That's breaking rule number one of surveillance. If this is a foreign entity. I'll add that former NORAD commander, General Glenn Van Herk, said on 60 Minutes openly that they attempted to jam these objects and failed. They couldn't get eyeballs, couldn't jam them, and yet they're operating over a key air defense facility right here off the East Coast. And that's, I want to just add on the analytics side, we saw these bright flashing lights occurring for months off the coast of Southern California. I think the FOIA documents show that this is going on from at least March until July of 2019. Several months, these objects swarming these naval warships, LCS ships, right? The newest ships some of the most advanced ships in our inventory. And thanks to Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp, we have video footage. We have radar data from the USS Omaha incident, which is very perplexing because it shows what appears to be a spherical object. And the debunkers have put up any number of nonsense theories for that. When you actually do the analysis, it looks like a spherical object moving against the wind and going into the water. So you add in the events over the UK. There are several bases in the UK in 2024. Wright-Patterson Air Force Base was shut down. Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, some folks might know that name, was shut down in 2024 because of drone activity. And thanks to John Greenwald's FOIA work, we know that at least, I think they counted at least 15 to 30 objects on radar, right? These are radar hits. So we have a major problem. I'm going to, again, defer on does the government know more or less about this to the rest of the panel. I just want to add some color to how extraordinary these incidents really are.
If these, and it's not necessarily just an if these things are happening as they are, but there is a thought experiment that has to be done. And again, not to trivialize this, but if these things do constitute something that is so far beyond the capabilities that humans have, there's an interdimensional elephant, I think, in the room, as we've seen over the last week at least or so, that has now been very much introduced into the mainstream conversation, even though many people have been talking about it before then. But the question is, we're here celebrating 250 years. Let's say, for the sake of this thought experiment, that 250 years ago, we were able to send back drones to fly over some of the battles that were happening between us and the British, right? And the Continental Army saw these drones up in the sky, and maybe one crashed, and they took it to George Washington. Or actually, I think in this case, we would be the British because of our military superiority. But for the sake of the analogy, they have this drone. There are sightings. Villagers have seen them. Some of the founding fathers have seen them. I cannot, in this thought experiment, ever see George Washington or anybody else that is involved in the military doing any sort of disclosure. because of the ramifications that would come from that disclosure. They would not know whether it was the British. They would not know what they were looking at. And some people would think it was witchcraft. And so the question is, if that is what's happening right now, what incentive does the military have in disclosing this to the public? Chris?
Yeah, I don't think the military has a strong incentive to disclose this to the public. To some degree, it's unfortunate. And when they created the classification guide for UAP, they sort of put down a blanket statement that essentially anything UAP related was going to be classified. And I think it was very short-sighted. It was the typical institutional desire to protect military secrets, which is understandable. But I think what they missed was that so much of the energy that was leading to greater support from Congress and greater funding to study the problem and take action was the result of information reaching the American people. When we look at what happened with Sputnik, for example, imagine if the intelligence agencies had kept that secret. We might not have got to the moon when we did. The military needs the public to understand what its challenges are and to build the support here for the funding and the requirements, et cetera. So I think the rank and file, the usual sort of routine response is don't share anything, lock everything down. And it's understandable that's the culture, but I think the seniors need to make some important exceptions to that.
And if I may push back just a little bit, and again, we're assuming, let's just assume that interdimensional abilities or even, interplanetary abilities are on the table right now. There's a question of asymmetric technology here. And when you apply that to national security, all of a sudden, the idea of full disclosure, the idea of actually this is how we think you can travel interdimensionally or any of those things opens up a whole host of issues on, well, can I teleport this into here? Can I teleport this person over here? Like that seems to be such a massive game changer to the point that it makes national security relatively moot. Is that something that comes into the conversation? Are there lines that maybe should not be crossed when it comes to disclosure and national security if we are dealing with that type of technology? Tim?
Well, yeah, Gaudian. First of all, I think that's been the incentive since past World War II for our government not to disclose, because no administration wants to admit that it's vulnerable and can't protect its citizens, and that the billions of dollars we spend for the Pentagon is potentially useless to this unknown possibly adversary. So that's true. But then there's a balance, because our public deserves to know what their taxpayer dollars are being used for and how good our defense system is, for example, or not. And so that's the edge I think we're walking on here, and all of us in the room are advocating for. And I see Avi Loeb's here, so we have a science advisory council that's been established, and thankfully we now have the support of the administration to go and answer some of these questions.
I can't wait to see that panel and hear hopefully a little bit more about where things stand with interdimensional travel and in science right now, because unfalsifiability is really anything that's unfalsifiable is something that we try to doesn't mean it's necessarily true or untrue. We just have to be careful about those conversations. And yet when it does come to thought experiments and playing things out, the idea of this seems like, if these things are true, this seems like fire. This seems like humans don't understand what fire is, have never seen fire, don't even know that they can cook. They don't know about thermodynamics. They don't know about anything. And there is this technology that may be kept away from humans, which we all, I think, agree should have a right to. And yet, if that is what's behind the disclosure wall, Mark, do you think we're ever going to see that?
I think, if the efforts here in Congress bear fruition, and if I think that the critical mass that is building up in interest, especially with the presidentially directed releases that we've seen, I think it's possible that we'll break through in some respect. I can't tell you how far that will go.
How about you, Kirk? Do you think that if there is something as game-changing as, as we can understand it, fire, that is on the other side of disclosure, where it is some sort of breakthrough understanding of how the universe works, that it could render entire nations completely moot, there will be disclosure?
Well, this is, sorry. This gets back to the critical question of what's behind the disclosure wall. What is there? Is it the kind of technology that is that you are alluding to? But more importantly, perhaps, is it technology that is easily mastered? If it's really, really hard, look, nuclear weapons are incredibly dangerous. You could devastate the whole world. But we were able to apply it to commercial uses by the sheer difficulty of engineering a huge enterprise to mine uranium, to enrich it, to build a reactor and make plutonium, and tritium and heavy water plants. There's a lot of difficult engineering steps in practice to make something that is so dangerous. So how hard is it going to be? And what are the observables? Can you control it? These are the kinds of calculations that I think the government will have to, and the public will have to wrestle with once we get on the other side and try to and get some understanding of what's going on. But look, if this is really dangerous stuff, and if it's easily proliferated or easily mastered, then you've got a problem. Given the state of humanity's level of consciousness, we fight with each other, and we have lunatics in the world who will just as soon blow it up under some circumstances. So these are really difficult questions, but.
Okay, y'all, you ready for this? I'm going to read you part of an opening statement that took place at a UAP hearing. Are you ready? Today, the House Committee on Science and Astronautics conducts a very special session, a symposium on the subject of unidentified flying objects, the name of which is a reminder to us of our ignorance on this subject and a challenge to acquire more knowledge thereof. We approach the question of unidentified flying objects as purely a scientific problem, one of unanswered questions. Certainly, the rigid and exacting discipline of science should be marshaled to explore the nature of phenomena which reliable citizens continue to report. A significant part of the problem has been that the sightings reported have not been accompanied by so-called hardware or materials that could be investigated and analyzed. So we are left with hypotheses about the nature of UFOs. These hypotheses range from the conclusion that they are purely psychological phenomena, that is, some kind of hallucinatory phenomena, to that of some kind of natural physical phenomena. So, to that of advanced technological machinery manned by some kind of intelligence, that is the extraterrestrial hypothesis. With that range in mind, then, we have invited 6 outstanding scientists to address us today. Men who deal with the physical, the psychological, the sociological, and technological data relevant to the issues involved. We welcome them and look forward to their remarks. Additionally, we have requested several other scientists to make their presentations in the form of papers to be added to these when published by the committee. The speakers today will include Dr. J. Allen Hynek, head of the Department of Astronomy, Northwestern University. Dr. James E. McDonald, senior physicist, the Institute of Atmospheric Physics, the University of Arizona. Dr. Carl Sagan, Department of Astronomy and Center for Radiophysics and Space Research, Cornell University. Dr. Robert L. Hall, head of the Department of Sociology, University of Illinois at Chicago. Dr. James Harder, Associate Professor of Civil Engineering, University of California, Berkeley, and Dr. Robert M. L. Baker, Jr., Computer Sciences Corp. And Department of Engineering, UCLA. This was the symposium on unidentified flying objects on July 29th, 1968. Sure sounds familiar, doesn't it?
You know, you can't just have it bottled up and in one little place in a country and perpetuate that forever. Everybody has to share in this decision making.
Chris, I want to bring you in as the man who opened up Pandora's box.
I know, that's why I try to make the case. It's going to be a good thing. But what I was going to say is that, you know, if we think about, say, nuclear weapons and the Manhattan Project, we kept a lid on it until we mastered the technology. If we have something that's a total game changer, then probably at some point we're going to want our adversaries to know. It's not a deterrent if it's totally secret and they don't know about it. So there may be a point in time at which we want to, the country makes a decision to take that out to deter aggression against the United States. That's conceivable. So I don't know. I think they have to, you know, if they have some technology, how developed is it? How reliable is it? When they get to a certain point, they might actually have an incentive to want other countries to know that we possess that capability.
And I want to add to that too. One argument for disclosure, to some degree, is to harness the power of the American R&D enterprise. And so, like nuclear power, once we
kind of like when a bunch of special forces soldiers fly into your presidential compound on silent helicopters and then blast all of your creme de la creme security officers with some DEW that makes them fall over and puke, and apparently some of them die or whatever, so that we can just run into this presidential compound unharmed and take the president of another country. Kind of like that.
mastered it, we then put it out to the national labs and industry, and we've been using nuclear power, and industry's building nuclear powered ships and submarines. So I think that's an argument, and we, again, our Science Advisory Council is here to make that case and open up the phenomenon to more research that we can hopefully capitalize on from a security standpoint and an economic prosperity standpoint.
So much of this overlaps, eerily overlaps with the issue of artificial intelligence that we now grapple with. That's non-human intelligence. It is something that was released to the public very quickly. We don't fully understand the ramifications. We see the government trying to rein it in and doing this odd dance. We're grappling with regulation. We're grappling with all these things. As a society right now, Mark, do you see a lot of overlaps between that in UAP?
I absolutely do, and maybe at the risk of opening up a second Pandora's box, I think we've heard from enough whistleblowers, David Grush, Jim Lukatsky, Hal Puthoff, Dr. Eric Davis, Colonel Carl Nell, that have all suggested or alleged, and this is also reflected in congressional legislation, that other nations have also potentially retrieved this technology. And I think it's the height of irresponsibility not to have a very, very nuanced discussion of what the potential ramifications of that may be. If there is someday some kind of a disclosure, we need to have a policy in place, because I don't think, and as I've emailed the group here.
Danger. What do? One of our enemies gets a UFO. We're fucked. So, yeah, it's a real threat.
I don't think we're magically going to sing Kumbaya once Trump or Xi or Putin announce the existence of non-human intelligence. If that.
Look, and you have to understand, I'm from this school of thought. I don't agree with any of these people 100%. You take what piece of knowledge you think they have is useful to you and makes sense to you, and you flesh it out, right? And one thing Greer has said consistently, I'm talking about Dr. Stephen Greer, notice he doesn't get invited to these, is that if they wanted us gone, we'd be gone. It would not be hard. So clearly we have something of interest. And people argue all day about what that is, but we do as humans bring something to the table, right? Our thirst for knowledge, our thirst for innovation, our thirst for technology. We're an interesting group of monkeys, us humans. But a threat, I think if this was a threat, we'd have faced multiple attacks already, if not complete annihilation. Just my 2 cents.
Is true. And again, we have to engage in that scenario planning. I'm sure Admiral Gallaudet knows that the military must, it plans for any possible contingency. And I think this is an incredibly important discussion. So, again, at the risk of going down a rabbit hole, let's imagine that China and Russia have retrieved craft. Let's imagine that Xi instructs.
100%, buddy. They're not. And that's the thing. What's weird about watching this is you see half of these people are rumored to be involved in the legacy program. And they're all telling us this is a threat. And they're all involved in programs that make money off UFOs or UAPs somehow. One way or the other. Do the legwork. They're all connected to some type of UFO or UAP funding in one way or another. They're celebrities. Let's be real. We've had this conversation before. These guys go to these conferences, they're treated like rock stars. They're just dudes. Sure, it's an interesting topic. And I'm sure they all offer unique insights into it. But so do you. All y'all hanging out right now in the middle of the night. So don't think just because they're on camera a lot, or like they have a book someone else probably wrote for them, they bring something unique that you don't. We're just humans. That's it.
All of his scientific talent, scientific capital, or Putin does the same thing to work on this problem. And, oh, by the way, they have mastered cheap AI technology and can reverse engineer, make sense of this technology much more rapidly than we can. What happens if one day, and Secretary Rubio has spoken openly about this, what happens if one day we wake up and the Chinese have or the Russians have a national ballistic missile defense system based on this technology? And oh, by the way, they also have an offensive capability, and we're stuck without that capability. That is an enormous, not only a national security risk, but a global security risk. So I'll just throw that to the group. What happens if we are ever...
Then you got China selling crack to our children. Is that what you want? Do you want Chinese people selling crack to your kids while they're in school, learning how to speak Chinese? Is that what you want? Pay attention, folks.
In that situation, I think that discussion must be had.
I think the discussion also must be had about what it would take for a kumbaya moment. Up until now, we've seen, I don't know if it's menacing behavior, but definitely, hey, like, we see that you see us, or whatever it is. But has there been an aggressive intent or even a lethal intent ever detected from your all knowledge, a UAP incident in which there was some sort of aggressive intent aimed at military service members or perhaps civilians?
Yes, there's this show on YouTube called the Gabriel Speaks Podcast. And he reads, word for word, the report from Russia. It actually found its way into a CIA file, but it was from a newspaper in Russia where soldiers had apparently seen a UFO, grabbed an RPG, slung it over their shoulder, fired, and hit the UFO. I swear. And then the UFO came down, splat, whatever, crashed, whatever. And then they saw these two beings like running away from it. And then these two beings jump together and become an orb. And then the orb poops on the ground. Some little poop orb hits the ground. And all the Russian soldiers that were there, except for I think it was one or two in a shaded area, turned to stone. It's in a CIA report, which means it has to be true. I kid, but it is in the report. And we did read it on one of our episodes. And it's kind of crazy to read. Like, basically, don't start no shit, won't be no shit. FAFO, right? Russian soldiers FAFO'd. UFO showed them. And we've heard the same rumors about their aircraft, that back in the day, they told their aircraft to fire at them. And every aircraft that fired at them ended up eating shit. Sometimes the pilots died, sometimes they didn't. So then they changed their policy to no longer fire on UFOs, but try to track them, try to follow them. It's an urban legend. Is it true? I don't know, but it's in the CIA papers. So somebody thought it was important enough to collect that intel.
We've had radar jamming and that kind of thing, which is a serious matter.
It's a serious matter to humans.
I mean, the military views that as an act of aggression. That's not something that our aircraft and aircraft from other nations engage in lightly. So there is that. Back in the 50s, there was one incident at least where
it was
a U.S. fighter
gas.
aircraft merged on radar with the UAP and never came back. Nobody knows what happened. This plane disappeared over the Great Lakes, but I'm not aware of any lethal hostility other than that historical event.
But and that's regarding U.S. platforms. I have no knowledge either. However, it's well documented in the ATIP, OSAP, and UAP task force investigations funded over tens of millions of dollars. And Lou Elizondo's in the room can speak to this, and he wrote about it, that there are individuals who have encountered UAP and had anomalous health effects. So that's real too. And we certainly cannot claim they're all benevolent when you know that data.
Yeah. Try our buddy Eric. You'd think these folks never watched my show with the fucking millions of views we get. It's like they've never watched an episode. It's crazy. Okay. Shameless self-plug here. These gentlemen are talking about experiences where people have health effects. This is a trailer of an episode I did with an Eric Mitchell. If you haven't seen it, check out the trailer. Make sure you watch it when you're in the mood.
Yeah, I thought I was being killed, and I don't even know by what or whom or what was going on. It's been 14 years, man, and
yeah,
I still have nightmares about that night, the vibration in my brain. I got so many feet away where I'm looking at the collarbone, the skin wrapping around the collarbone, the rib meat, the tiny black veins in the paper white skin, and these bright blue eyes. And, there was nowhere for it to go. It just literally disappeared. What Bob told us was disturbing. He said that they're gonna have to admit UFOs exist, but they are not ever going to disclose that experiencers do. Lou Elizondo was being briefed on physically affected citizens. So we had to wait a couple of days to get back on projects and do this and that. So he was briefed. And during the Q&A, somebody asked him, what about physically affected citizens? And Lou Elizondo slammed his hand down on the desk and said there's no such thing as physically affected citizens. You have to, in order to qualify for counterintelligence and counterinsurgents, you first and foremost have to pass the test that nobody likes to talk about. You have to qualify as a sociopath. The whole zeitgeist looks like he just broke away from the government and he's working alone and now he's broke and can't afford anything. And that's not what's going on. And then we get into Lou Elizondo. He's like, yeah, he bought me lunch. He picked my brain. And then, he was like, this is on our government, and handed him a card. And it's like, wait a minute. I thought you were off the payroll. What's going on here?
I don't know how you're doing that.
If you have not catched our interviews with Eric, I highly, highly recommend, when you're bored, take some time. You don't got to necessarily watch them. You can listen to them, but What Eric Mitchell has to say, what I love is that he does not pretend to have all the answers, like many folks do. And he's real. So, yes, I'm going black for a little while, taking a little vacation. But I do plan on working on some stuff with Eric when I come back, and I'm very excited for that. All right, let's listen to some more propaganda. I mean, more Disclosure Foundation talk.
It is real.
If there was such an action that was detected by one of the world's superpowers, do you think that that might be a catalyst for Putin and Xi and President Trump to talk about this together?
I mean, that gets to Chris's opening remarks about the famous Reagan comments at the UN in 1987. And fun little historical fact, when 1985, when Reagan first met the new premier Gorbachev in Geneva.
Avi's like, I tried to tell them. They were coming on Iraq to kill us. But nobody gave me billions. Nobody.
And one of their, I think it was their first summit. Cold War tensions were really at their height. It was a very tense moment in the Cold War. And Reagan and Gorbachev had just finished a really intense series of meetings, and it's tough going. They're having a hard time. They're not getting along. They're not making any progress. And they go for a walk, just the two of them. And Reagan asks Gorbachev, just kind of on an offhand manner, "Hey, if some aliens came around and attacked us, would you come and help us?" And Gorbachev said,
Oh my God. Like, did this guy just watch his first UFO documentary? I mean, we know, dude. And we've heard the story.
In the Office of Undersecretary of Defense for Research and...
Yeah, props. They did this for 7.5 hours, and they had to sit through God knows how long Avi Loeb was talking. We're not going to do it. We're not sitting through all that.
Engineering, I think, and development. And
Executive branch, judicial branch, Congress, states' rights. Do you think that framework is adequate? Do we have enough self-correcting mechanisms in here to be able to deal with technological advance like many people suggest?
Well, I'm in agreement with Mark that for all of our flaws in the way our government functions, I think it's the best model that we have. But I would say this. What's wrong now is that we're not living up to what our structure is. The idea that Congress can go 80 years without officially and consistently being part of the making of policy in an area like this is just unconscionable. And you can't sugarcoat it. I'm an instant.
But like every time Congress goes to what they believe and what honestly should be the military people in the know and the black op world in the know and the intelligence world in the know, and they should at least know these things in closed door meetings. And that's why it's so hard to think that it is extraterrestrial. Because if it was, in all this time, nobody at the higher levels could gather the evidence and come forward? Not one person? Not one. Because let's be clear, I believe so much testimony that is out there from what people experienced. But testimony at the end of the day is just that. It's testimony. It's not even that reliable in court. You know how hard it is to get a conviction with testimony alone? And so in quote unquote 80 years, there hasn't been a moment, there hasn't been a whistleblower, there hasn't been a thing that tells all of us collectively we are not alone. I don't even know if something like that would be up to a government. And so it's difficult to listen to a panel of guys that have been in this field for who knows how long, saying the same things for decades now, knowing that Hal Puthoff, look, y'all, Hal Puthoff's right here. He is right here. Eye contact, eye contact, eye contact, eye contact, eye contact. Maintain. Are you picking up what I'm putting down?
Constitutionalist of
I hope
this
so. I'm putting it
institution.
down pretty thick.
And
I hope so.
This is what offends me as much as anything about this is keeping Congress out of the picture, out of the decision-making process is just indefensible. So.
And all of that is done in the interest of... And it's fascinating because all of that is, or at least we believe, may have been done in the interest of national security, right? National security is the great line that is verboten to cross. Are you all suggesting that national security maybe, when we're talking about whistleblower protections and we're talking about some of the details in the language on who can come forward and what they can say, national security once again comes right back front and center. How do you navigate that when it comes to the specific language and what people are allowed to disclose to the public, to individual members of Congress, and then possibly to the executive?
Well, the good news is nobody has ever been prosecuted for bringing classified information to Congress and presenting it in a secure facility to an appropriate committee. So I would say the doors are wide open. They remain open. We're doing everything we can to encourage people to come forward. And I do think there's room for additional legislation to provide additional compensation or protections to people. Here in the Disclosure Foundation, we have a legal staff that's prepared to provide free legal advice to people that may have questions about their rights and obligations. So we're trying to facilitate that in any way we can. But people that have come forward to date, if none of them have been...
I mean, not to talk shit, but you can get free legal advice at Legal Aid. That's not really an awesome benefit for whistleblowers.
Prosecuted. They've suffered administrative sort of blowback in some cases. And that is a more difficult thing to shield them from. But I would say right now that's the principal problem that they face if they do come to Congress. And
oh my God, it's something I agree with Melon on, y'all. Praise the baby Jesus. So look, this is why I was saying at the beginning of this episode, like, I'm holding my tongue on most of these whistleblowers because I don't trust the system that they are supposed to trust with their life, their family life, their well-being. I don't trust that system. If they were to ask me to put something on the line right now, no joke, if Christopher Mellon or Rep Luna or Rep Burleson came forward and they were like, Gabe, tell us this. I mean, sure, you could get arrested, you could get prosecuted, you might even get killed by the private contractor you used to work for before you can say anything. But trust us, we're going to leave you in the hands of our assistant here, Carla. It's her second week, but she understands this is important. Carla, why don't you take Gabe's statement and send him over to Legal Aid? I mean, the Disclosure Foundation legal help. The fuck out of here. So I hold my tongue on those whistleblowers. As far as I'm concerned at this point, it's still heroic what they did. But you got to do it all the way. Can't do it halfway. On the flip side of that, though, I understand you got to take care of you and yours. I definitely understand when it's about more than just you. So do what you got to do, player. You won't hear Gabe talking shit, I promise. But some of these cats, they'll hear me talking shit.
So more can be done in that regard.
Yeah, and in the end of the day, we swore an oath to the Constitution, and we're a government by the people, for the people, and so I think that people have a right to know.
Admiral, you of all people here, I think at the desk, you took quite a risk in coming forward and in approaching this before it was very mainstream. It's so weird because now I keep finding myself in conversations with, I believe, the same people that I've been arguing with throughout the years. And I'm surrounded. I'm like, wait a minute. I thought I was the one that had to convince you guys to take this stuff seriously. And now you're all just assuming that it's aliens. Like, we have to deal with this with nuance. And they're like, wait, are you the skeptic? And I'm like, I don't know. But so often it does seem as though the pendulum has swung, and now we have the ability to look beyond the stigma. But now that has happened, do you think that the whistleblower protection, additional whistleblower protections that are being discussed, are necessary, or do you think that this idea of just going straight to your Congress member or going straight to an executive in the correct manner are sufficient to bring about more disclosure?
Well, I think I agree completely with what Chris said, is that, there's no case of people even attempted to be prosecuted, much less convicted, for sharing classified information with Congress in a secure manner. Now, he also then said, yeah, but they have administrative weapons to apply. And I take that, we all take that incredibly seriously, and it's a real problem. Whistleblower protections are simply inadequate. They just absolutely are ridiculous, ridiculously one-sided. And so this is a real problem, and it is still ongoing today.
So it's really clear, like, through the conversation we're getting so far, it's very clear that they're trying to, like, really add a layer of, like, credibility, right? We haven't heard, not yet, 4 hours in, 3.5 hours in. Oh, my favorite person. We haven't heard yet an experiencer. And I don't think that is by accident. I think it is because what they're trying to do here is lay the groundwork for credibility. And they think anybody having an experience that could chase people off. And so keep it grounded, keep it in science, keep it with these political leaders, keep it with these ex-military guys, have these serious sounding conversations. Now we're going to talk to some quote unquote scientists, even though Hal Puthoff is up there. I'm totally kidding. I give Hal a hard time. Hal's great. I don't know. Probably not. But anyway, we're having the scientists up there. So it's like this whole credibility trip, right? The Disclosure Foundation is credible. That's what they're trying to say with this forum here.
Moderate this panel with two such distinguished panelists. And Jordan and the whole Disclosure Foundation, I mean, you guys did a fantastic job of picking panelists that are incredibly timely and relevant, because Professor Loeb over here just 2 weeks ago was named to the government's new UAP Science Advisory Council. And Avi, I understand that you have a brief presentation that you want to give. So why don't you go ahead, get behind the podium. What do you say, about 5 minutes? Can we get through it in 5 minutes? Okay. If you go a little over, that's all right. Okay, take it away, Avi.
Please, just 5 minutes, Avi.
And then we'll get into the Q&A.
So I'll just say a few general words. So let me start with the executive summary. It's all about evidence. If UAP are real objects, we should be able to figure them out with better data. And that's what we should do. Now, how often does the Director of National Intelligence, the White House, the FBI, the intelligence community ask scientists to help them? Not very often. And they sort of approached me to establish this Science Council for the science of unidentified anomalous phenomena, presumably because they cannot figure out what these objects are. And as of a couple of days ago, we submitted a request for more than 50 items of information that we would like to get from those organizations, and hopefully they'll deliver, because the quality of the work of this council depends on the data that is shared with us. We will make the best lemonade out of the lemons that we get. And the cooperation with the government is quite remarkable. I think now we can work together, and that's thanks to President Trump's directive. And one thing that has to be made clear is that science is not about finding signals, as much as it sounds like what everyone is looking for. It's about distinguishing signals from noise. There are lots of sources for noise. And we need to make sure that these objects, first of all, are real, and secondly, cannot be explained away by known phenomena. And there are two possibilities. If these objects are technological, either they are human-made or not human-made. These are the two possibilities. If you take the down-to-earth approach and say they are human-made, that's a serious matter, because we're dealing with objects that we don't understand and potentially are made by adversarial nations. So this subject needs to get a higher priority by the government.
Now understand, like last night, we just watched a report where a fighter pilot that was shot down over Iran referred to the defensive drone system as some kind of a jellyfish jellyfish system and literally said something, I believe, to the effect of, this is some UFO shit or something like that, before being shot out of the sky. So it's not, again, it's not crazy to think other nations have advanced in areas where we have not. It makes sense.
Government, we have to figure out what these objects are. We shut down the Chinese spy balloon. There may be many drones produced by adversarial nations spying on the US, on strategic assets. And in that case, we are dealing with a serious matter. So definitely more research, better sensors, better AI software to figure these things out need to be employed. And the US government needs to pay a lot of attention to that. And I don't feel that my time as a scientist will be wasted, because in the very least, we will help the Pentagon accomplish their mission, right? So, and once we have good enough data, it will become clear whether we're dealing with human-made objects or not human-made objects. This is not a philosophical question. It's not a religious question. It's a question that can be addressed with state-of-the-art sensors and analysis tools. And I should say that a lot of people are upset because the government didn't deliver information in the past. But if you look closely at history, bureaucrats never get punished for cosmic mistakes. When the Vatican admitted in 1992 that Galileo Galilei was right, nobody requested to put the Pope in jail or any other bureaucrat in the Vatican because they lied to the public for centuries. And they did it knowingly. And not only that, when they had a whistleblower saying, it looks like the earth is moving around the sun, they put him in house arrest. Today, they would have canceled him on social media. So what was surprising to me is that on June 12th, that's the day when Steven Spielberg released his film Disclosure Day, on the same day there was a real disclosure by the US government. The most interesting report in that disclosure came from John Kozlowski, Dr. John Kozlowski, the director of the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, talking about an event that lasted 2 days in October 2023, relatively recently. And 40% of the phenomena in that event were not resolved. And so, you know, there are two basic questions. One is there a there? Okay, is there something really that we are not understanding? And the answer, I think, is yes.
Okay, so as you know, I'm not a giant fan of Avi Loeb. So we're going to jump over to some how put off interactions. Looks like he's speaking here pretty quickly. So let's see what Hal has to say at the Disclosure Foundation.
The people with expertise in physics, but I try to get people who do not have a clear absolute opinion about the nature of UAP. And my hope is that this will bring us to a clear understanding. I even selected a skeptic that I completely disagree with, and I have a bet that by 2030 we will know about artifacts that are extraterrestrial in origin. And I have a bet with that skeptic, and the reason I brought him in is because if he ends up being convinced that I'm right, that will demonstrate that we have evidence beyond any reasonable doubt. And that's the best approach. It's not very common these days to bring people with different opinions to the same panel, but I thought it's really essential to have someone like that. because it will also cultivate recognition from the community of skeptics. Altogether, I think it's just like a detective story. We just have to figure it out. But I didn't go for the historic figures that established the field, like Hal, who deserves a lot of credit for bringing this forward. And just because I want to have completely fresh approach, exactly.
So, Hal, do you take any offense to not being one of Avi's young nerds?
Whoa, like Gary Nolan's on the group. Not exactly a fresh approach, but okay.
You've already, according to Avi, formed an opinion on the topic. So what is your opinion, if you can just state it plainly for everybody in the room? And what advice do you have for Avi as he forms this new council?
Well, first of all, I totally am behind exactly the approach that Avi is taking. Data, analyze, fresh minds brought to the issue that don't have the long history that I happen to have being involved in the issue. So I think the setup of that organization and with Avi's leadership of it is exactly what the field needs at this point. Now, of course, I come having been chief science advisor for the DIA's OSAP program, working in highly classified levels. I come in with a wholly different viewpoint. And actually, there's a specific issue I want to raise that I'm sure that he and his panel will address, and that is, as those of us on the OSAP program for DIA interacted with various organizations, defense intelligence organizations, also aerospace contractors and so on. What we found was that what was killing this area and preventing things from moving forward was the unbelievable amount of stovepiping and fiefdoms and lack of cross-correlation. So you'd have people sitting at desks in some of these aerospace corporations who couldn't even talk to the person in the next desk about what they were doing. Well, I have what I consider the best example of all, and that is Edward Teller, who was father of the H-bomb. He was part of the Manhattan Project, of course, and you would think, well, if anyone were really into security, it would be Edward Teller. But after that program became revealed and so on, he gave a speech. And in his speech, he said, we had the maximum security you could possibly have, the maximum kind of stovepiping and fiefdoms and separations in the Manhattan Project, and we worked our way toward the atomic bomb. But basically, Russia worked its way up the ladder at about the same rate we did. On the other hand, in electronics and circuitry and that kind of stuff, we didn't classify anything. And we took off like a rocket and left Russia in the dust. So in fact, the truth of the matter is, even if you're worried about security, I think we have a better chance at dealing with the security that we do need to be conscious of by having much more cross-correlation. And so that's a big reason that I'm basically involved in the whole idea of disclosure. And I know that from having talked to people in various spots, my God, if only those two people would talk together, we would move ahead a lot faster. So the idea of having transparency and a lot of people working together and sharing ideas and so on, even from the standpoint of national security, that's going to be tantamount if we're going to move forward. Now, unfortunately, from our standpoint, or the American standpoint, our two big potential adversaries, who are the Chinese and the Russians, they don't have that problem. They just take their 1,000 engineers or whatever, throw them in a big camp and say, okay, figure this out. So the chances of harming our security by having such compartmentalization is actually something that I'm very concerned about. So anything that opens up this area, gets more cross-correlation, I think is unbelievably significant.
So you started by talking about data, 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 and that's what this panel is all about, science and data. Not the sexiest title on surface level, but as everybody in this room knows, it's absolutely critical to get this topic from just being anecdote into potentially proving some of the things that many of the people in this room have been talking about. And I love that we have the two of you up here, because the two of you approach UAPs and this phenomena from two very different data sets. You have Avi, who of course works from publicly observable data with the Galileo project. And then Hal, of course, has decades of access to classified data. And so Hal, I'm wondering if you can explain, what do you think is the single most important category of classified data that scientists like Avi still don't have access to?
Well, as a physicist and a scientist, of course, and I'm in my own little stovepipe here, but anyway, when we got together, several of the scientists to try to figure out what could we discern about the technology. Well, we looked at all kinds of different kinds of things, negative matter, whatever. But basically, our efforts came down to kind of a certain area, which is basically engineering general relativity. All of our electronics that we're using in this room and so on, they're all products of Maxwell's equations from the 1800s. Okay. Now, it turns out that when we collect all the data about what the observations are for UAP phenomena, it generally falls into a category that it looks like that Einstein's equations in general relativity have been engineered. Because if you make a list, in fact, I did it myself. I took a piece of paper and I said, okay, I'm going to make a list on this side of the most weird things that have been reported about UAP phenomena. And for me, for my reasons, the weirder, the better, because if somebody's making up a BS story, they want it to sound reasonable. So when they say, well, I got close to the craft and it changes its size, or whatever, okay, I like that kind of data. And then we come over and look at general relativity equations and we say, well, if I could engineer general relativity, what would I expect to see? And it turns out that we found in our investigations that they seem to match up pretty well. So we have this hypothesis that space-time metric, as we call it, and the properties of space-time are being engineered. So unfortunately, okay, well, if we understand that, we have our pilots telling us, oh my God, this stuff is way beyond our physics. Of course, to a physics nerd like myself, it's not beyond our physics. If it's
Okay, Hal. So, while Hal was talking data, I went ahead and looked up some data. For instance, a little bit ago, we looked at this 1968 UFO hearing, and I even read you the first bit there. And it even sounded like some of what we were hearing today. And I thought, that's interesting. So I wonder, I took this entire hearing and I crunched it with the transcript from what we were just watching, the UAP Disclosure Forum. And we found some patterns, and I thought I would share that with y'all. So, one recurring pattern over just the past several years has been a major announcement. People get huge expectations. There's typically some media excitement. level of media. Kind of depends on what the announcement is. Then when the announcement comes, there's almost a familiarity to what the people are saying. It's a landing, or it's an abduction, or it's an orb experience. So very familiar. And then on top of that, there's hardly any verifiable facts. You have maybe other witnesses that were there, maybe a shaky, blurry camera image, but nothing you would say makes it a verifiable fact. And then we have the so-called disclosure or UFO community, you can call it that, kind of split up between believers and whatever this announcement was and skeptics. Now, the same exact pattern, we see this pattern in congressional hearings, in whistleblower press conferences, during podcasts, new documentaries that come out, conferences, and of course, the paywalled interviews, right? The paywalled information that some fucking dipshit just posted about Amy Eskridge, lying, straight up lying about her still being around and working on anti-gravitics and only talking with these certain people. They were going to drop their inside information behind a paywall, of course. How terrible is that? Like, how shitty of a person are you? Like, I could not believe it. Not everybody that makes an extraordinary claim is a grifter, right? People in this space that try to bring new information, or maybe even write a book about something or an article about something, or what they do, they financially gain from it in some way. That doesn't necessarily make you a grifter. But I do think that there are warning signs. For instance, like, grifters will give you the typical, like, just wait. Like, a drop is coming. Something's happening soon. There's a lot of people talking on the back end about this. It's going to come out next month at the next hearing, the next document drop, the next whistleblower that comes out, the next interview. It's always one more reveal. If you could probably count between 10 to 20 reveals between when I sign off tonight and the next time I sign on, and guess how much new, shocking, groundbreaking information there will actually be. Probably not much, right? Those that have been doing this for a while and researching this stuff for a while, you're hearing me right now. These are patterns you're very familiar with. And these folks that generate these patterns, it's all about constant monetization. Books, speaking fees, paid memberships, exclusive interviews, premium subscriptions, VIP events, where I know some of us on X have seen people taking pictures of these UFO celebrities behind the scenes. We know you paid $1,000 for that dinner. That's it. Earning money is not inherently wrong. The question is whether the evidence grows alongside the business. Because if you're always getting a wait and see, you're always getting a wait and see. I think one thing that happens to some people in this field too is that we confuse certainty with proof. For instance, I'm very, very certain that there is, if not extraterrestrial life, at the very least, very least, a version of us traveling through time, manipulating things. I don't know if it's connected to the things we see flying around. I have a feeling it is. I have a very strong feeling that may be happening. But that doesn't make it proof. That's my own personal certainty. And so I might speak with conviction about that and why I believe that. But at the end of the day, it's just my belief. We don't have proof of that. You don't have to become a believer in everything or a debunker of everything. You can just ask, what is the evidence? And that's where the science begins. And when you start seeing unscientific results, then you know they can't necessarily be counted on. All right, y'all, that's going to do it for this one. It's getting late. I'm going to move on, get to bed. I want to thank you all for hanging out with me tonight on the Gabriel Speaks podcast. This was an interesting one. Getting to see these folks bark about things that they've been barking about for a while, right? Again, did we hear anything new? No. Not so much. You know, what we heard was same, similar stories, different timeline, different way of viewing them. How put off might sound somewhat more enlightened now. He's not, I promise. He's the same how put off. Oh, man. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this one, y'all. Don't forget, tell the ones you love how much you love them. Hold them tight if you can. I want to thank y'all for tuning in to the Gabriel Speaks podcast, and I will see you next time, which might be a few months, but we'll see you again.